Okay, so it's the second day now of having the 200S, and as promised, I was going to do a fuel economy run. As you can tell, it's snowing outside, the road conditions are pretty poor, and I just filled up at the gas station. So what I'm going to do now, you can't see what I'm doing right now, you'll just have to take my word for it, is I'm actually going to reset my fuel economy average so we can kind of see if EVIC is actually accurate into actually giving us our average fuel economy. And I'm going to reset the trip info, and I'm going to try to do a 100-kilometer round trip. I'm putting the car into drive only. I'm not going to do any kind of sport mode or any aggressive driving, and I'm also going to drive at 110 kilometers an hour, and I'm going to do a simple highway run. And the only reason why I'm going to do that is because I want to see if we can really get down to that 8 liters per 100 kilometers. Now, like I said to you guys, I was averaging, since I had the car for the last 2 days, about 10 to 10.5 liters per 100 kilometers. So I believe that the 11 or the 12.8 city rating for fuel economy is relatively accurate, depending on how aggressive you are when you're driving your vehicle. I managed to bring it down to 10.5, so I know that the numbers are kind of inflated. Now again, the all-wheel drive is going to be working probably all the time, because as you can tell, the road conditions are very slippery. And this is great, because honestly, this is going to be the worst fuel economy run that you're going to get with this vehicle. If you're in the months of July or June, where there's hardly any poor weather conditions, you're going to notice, obviously your fuel economy numbers going right up, because the all-wheel drive system is never going to have to deal with this issue. And of course, everybody crawling. Look at the Honda CR-V in front of me crawling, trying to get some traction. You see its all-wheel drive system working by the snow getting thrown up in the air. You probably can't see it, but I can see one wheel getting a little bit more power to the other wheel instead of the other wheel. Anyways, besides that, again, that's electronic all-wheel drive system, folks. And I already felt the all-wheel drive system engage in this car when I first left out of my driveway. Now, I did restart the car, obviously, because I was at the pump, and I haven't felt the mechanical coupler that I was mentioning to you guys earlier lock the rear wheels. So I'm assuming it is in all-wheel drive, because we're going through this ramp right now. It's very icy in here. The Excise 3 tires are doing a fantastic job, but again, the traction control light's not on. Nothing too aggressive. Now, standard driving on the highway is 100 kilometers an hour max. I think that's a little too slow with respect to daily driving. I know a lot of people commute at 120 kilometers an hour. If I have time, I will do a 120 kilometer test drive for you guys for fuel economy. But right now, I'm going to just do the 110 if I can get up to that speed, because the road conditions are so poor. Hopefully, everyone will keep up with me. I will try my best to make sure I provide an accurate video here. And again, my goal is to do a 100 kilometer an hour round trip. I'll go back to the same gas pump that I filled up at, and I will fill the tank like I did the first time. Now, if anybody's questioning how I did that, I just placed the nozzle into the car, filled it until the system automatically shut itself off. I did not force any more fluid or gasoline into the vehicle. I just let it stop by itself. And to give you an example, doing 110 kilometers an hour, this is something I wanted to mention to you guys during my test drive review, but again, I couldn't get up to those speeds, obviously, was the fact that when you're on the highway, this is where the 9-speed transmission really comes into effect. Again, you'll never use the 9th gear doing 110 kilometers an hour. The RPMs is just way too low in 8th gear. So to give you an idea, doing 110 kilometers an hour in this car, in 8th gear, my RPM is sitting at 1750 RPM, right on the money. It might be just like a hairline below it, but for the most part, that's where it's sitting. And there's not enough engine speed to engage the 9th gear. Where you're going to see the 9th gear being used the most is anything past 115 kilometers an hour. And 115 kilometers an hour is still pushing it. You really need to get the car up to about 120 kilometers an hour to really notice the use of the 9th gear. Otherwise, you're always going to be in 8th gear. And again, every time I slow down, I'm just lightly pressing the brakes to disengage cruise control, and then I'm pressing the resume button on the steering wheel here. That way, it's not aggressive pedal, I'm not aggressively tackling the pedal to accelerate the vehicle. Again, this is a fuel economy run. I'm trying to gain fuel economy as much as possible. And as you can tell, I'm driving 110 kilometers an hour. The road conditions are fairly slippery. I have the Michelin Excise 3 tires on. I have the all-wheel drive system on. I don't have traction control or anything disabled. And I'm cruising on the highway with confidence. These cars are all driving extremely slow based on weather conditions, and I just feel confident. I really do. And again, I demonstrated that to you guys earlier today when I was really trying to lose control of the car. Well, a control loss of power. Now, obviously, I'm braking a little bit early here, just to caution myself. Again, it's not my vehicle, so I still have to play it safe. But yeah, like I just had so much confidence today, earlier. I don't feel the need of driving, you know, very carefully at low speeds in this car. I mean, it sustains very well in terms of traction. You hardly get any slip. And again, I was playing with the entire car today with no traction control on. So it just goes to show, you know, the confidence level I've gained in the vehicle just by having it for the last, you know, 2 days. Now, guys are just crawling through here. It's kind of ridiculous. This is now becoming unsafe because transport trucks obviously drive a lot faster. They got tons of more weight, tons of more traction than vehicles. And cars are just all over the place. They don't get how to drive in the snow. And again, we're doing 70 kilometers an hour on the highway, which isn't too bad. It should open up soon. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bore you guys to death me driving in a snow blizzard. As you can tell, this is going to be a great fuel economy run for you guys to really get the average going down, to give you guys an idea of what I'm averaging already, just by driving, you know, 5 minutes into the ride here. I've driven already 8 kilometers and I'm down to 11.4 liters per 100 kilometers. Now this thing, I'm sure, is going to drop very fast. I believe that's my total fuel economy. Let me look at my average. Yeah, now my average is a little bit lower. It's 11 liters per 100 kilometers. Now it's gone down to 10.9. So again, and I'm revving in 7th gear, or sorry, yeah, in 7th gear, I'm revving at 1250 RPM, doing 78 kilometers an hour. So again, this is the benefits of having that ZF 9-speed transmission. That's why Chrysler's using it in all its products, because honestly, this is where your fuel economy is really going to take into effect, regardless if you're driving the Pentastar V6 or the Tiger Shark 2.4 liter in the 200. So I'm just going to continue driving, and I'll turn back on the video once I get the fuel economy a little bit lower, almost to the target point, and I'll tell you exactly how long it took me to get there. Okay, so just an update where we are in this road trip here. I've driven 27.5 kilometers one way. It says my total average fuel economy just from this distance is 9.5 liters per 100 kilometers. I've driven for the last 19 minutes and 40 seconds. And my average fuel economy, my live average fuel economy gauge is reading 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers. Now you can tell I cleared a bit of that snow blizzard that we were in, and I'm averaging 110 kilometers an hour. The transmission just went into 8th gear because I had to slow down there. Car, just before I turned back on the video, car was in front of me doing like 80 still with his 4-ways on in the fast lane. Thank you very much. But anyways, besides that, so yeah, so a couple of things to point out. Road noise in the vehicle. There's, you know, I pass a lot of transport trucks, a lot of vehicles that were diesel motors, very loud. And the interior is sounded very nicely. Not too much noise. The only noise I'm hearing from the car right now, really, that's loud at all, is the nice exhaust note. And it's just got a really nice hum when you press the gas. Now I had, again, because a car came right in front of me, I had to reduce my speed. We're still doing about 105 kilometers an hour. So probably, I would say this fuel economy run is going to average about 105 kilometers an hour. But again, it gives you the exact spectrum of how much you're going to average while using the all-wheel drive system. And you know what? It's probably disengaging. I don't know how the entire system works. Maybe the car has to stop, but as of right now, this area, there's absolutely no snow. It hasn't even snowed in this area. So the all-wheel drive system may shut itself off, knowing that it doesn't need the extended traction that I needed back there earlier in the highway. So now I'm doing 110, so I'm pretty sure I can average 110 kilometers to Toronto now that there's absolutely no snow conditions. But yeah, other than that, and here's the lights I was talking about, the HID upgraded lights with the LED fog lamps. These lights are fantastic. Actually, I just passed an Audi A4, an older one, probably like around a 2010 or a 2011 model, and these lights just blew the Audi's lights apart. Again, $40,000 versus a $60,000 car, $55,000 plus $1,000 car. Again, this 200 is just, it surprises me as I continue to drive it for long periods of time. For the money, I really don't know what else you can compare. I mentioned to you guys earlier about the German cars. One car I forgot to mention about, I was thinking about it, was the WRX or the Subarus. Now, the Subarus, if you look at the Impreza models, not the WRX obviously, is probably another good alternative. But again, to get it well equipped, like the way this car is equipped, you're going to be going over the $40,000 mark for sure. It's a little bit different drivetrain. You're definitely not going to get as much power. I've reviewed the Subarus, a couple of Subarus. I've reviewed the Forester and the Impreza. Again, the Impreza is a fairly large car, so it's hard to really compare a Subaru to the 200. But again, that's the only other all-wheel drive alternative that you can get for the price range. Live fuel economy gauge is reading 9 liters. My trip info, I've driven 35.2 kilometers, and my average fuel economy is 9.3. So you could definitely, I'll definitely hit the 8 liter mark for sure. Well, not 8.0 liters, but probably 8.5, 8.6, I'm thinking. But you never know. Maybe if I slow the vehicle down or I come to a complete stop, the all-wheel drive system will disengage. I'm not entirely sure exactly how the mechanical system works. They don't give you all that details, but I'm sure guys watching this video and guys that actually appreciate this review will probably post some interesting information for us guys to share with all of our viewers. Now, in terms of the suspension, if you guys are questioning, I mentioned to you guys earlier about the McPherson strut system and how the 200S has a bit of a sportier suspension. The struts on this car are handling all of the potholes and the imperfections of the road perfectly. Nothing aggressive. I haven't been bashed around, and it's absorbing everything very well. So it's not in a sport aggressive feel. I think it probably just takes away that floatiness in the stock 200, firms it up a little bit. I'm sure they've put some sway bars front and rear just to stabilize things a little bit better. I'll see if I can take a look underneath the car and really show you guys like we've done in the past reviews that we've done. Again, because it's winter time, it's a little bit harder to do these things, but lane departure seems to be working early. I've noticed in some of the Mercedes I've test driven, the changing lane warning system on the Mercedes is really tight. I mean, it warns you like the very last second a car is in the field. Whereas this Chrysler 200 gives itself a little bit of a buffer. It tells you, even though you have astronomical amounts of power to definitely accelerate quickly and to merge safely. I don't have any lack of confidence in that department. But it's just, again, things to note that you would not notice when you're test driving the vehicle from a dealership. The heated seats seem to be working great. It's like minus 15 or 17 degrees outside. I don't know. Or it says it's minus 6. The wind chill, it's about minus 17. It's pretty cold out there. All the door compartments are not ice cold, which tells me that the insulation in this car is fairly good. It's, you know, It's got adequate amount of insulation, so if you turn the heat down to a lower temperature, the car is not going to become an icebox. Like currently, all the windows are defogged. I have no issues with visibility in the front or rear of any of the windows, and I have the heating system turned down to 17 degrees just to cool off the interior because it's gotten too hot. And again, there's no interior fogging of the windshield. No issues there. So again, there's no rattling in the car. The dash is it looks like it's a two-piece design, but the way it's designed is probably it's never going to rattle just because how it's got so much support. The one main piece of the dash is supported by the back portion of the dash, so again, you'll never get any rattling from the front area. And because the 200 utilizes this nice shape where the center console is right in front of the driver, you don't have to worry about buttons creaking or causing any kind of unwanted noises because it's just the way it's designed. There's not too many buttons that are going to cause issues with you here. Again, the Uconnect is heavily relied on, and it's a very good system. I've never had any issues. I've had mine for about 2.5 years now, and again, no issues with it whatsoever. And another thing to mention about these seats is it's very, very supportive. Again, that four-way lumbar adjustment really makes the seat so, it just makes it really nice to have. I mean, this is not a very premium vehicle, but you still have all these functions. I definitely couldn't get this in my BMW 320i at $40,000. I had, a 6-way powered seat, but I didn't have lumbar adjustment, that's for sure. So it's just nice to have. And I'm really starting to like these cloth inserts with the leather, the outside leather trim. And again, the only reason why is because, when you sit down in a cold car, they heat up very quickly, and you feel the full effect of the seat warmers. It really works very well in cold weather climate conditions, such as tonight. Okay, so I'm going to stop with my rants. Just before I end this video, I just want to give you a heads up. I've driven 45.2 kilometers. It's been 29 minutes and 36 seconds. And guess what my fuel economy average is now? 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers. So I was completely wrong. And this is just my driving, my average drive. My live fuel economy, I guarantee, is going to be lower, just based on what I've been seeing tonight. Yep, 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers. So I'm definitely saving fuel. I don't know if the all-wheel drive system has just turned itself off because of long periods of not needing traction, but I am going to turn around. I just got to find a turnaround point here. And I'm going to head back towards my home. And what we're going to do just before I stop at my house, I'm going to fill up. It's going to tell me the exact amount of liters. I'm going to fill up at the same pump, and we're going to get an accurate reading. Again, I'll stop the video now, and I'll restart it on my way back and give you what my fuel economy average is at around... Whoa, that was a big bump. You guys, yeah, this is the Gardiner Expressway. Yeah, this is after the... Oh my God. This is after the construction was done. This is like the worst bridge. Oh my God. If I had my Dodge Charger still lowered, I would lose it right now, because guaranteed I would have bottomed out with all that weight. I totally customized the suspension. So anyways, again, as you can tell from the video, the 200 took that awesome. Absolutely didn't bottom out whatsoever, but maybe I should just drive on the Gardiner from now on doing reviews, because the road conditions on this thing is just ridiculous. Okay, so I'm just about to get to that 75 kilometer mark. I've driven 47 minutes and 45 seconds. I've driven 47.5 kilometers, and my all-time average is 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. My live fuel economy digital readout is 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers. So that puts things into perspective that yes, you can achieve the 8.5 liter mark in this car doing city driving at 110, or city driving, highway driving at 110 kilometers an hour. And again, city driving, I would say 10.5 liters per 100 kilometers is a respectable number that you can gauge yourself with, instead of that 12 point whatever it was reading on the sticker I read out earlier too. I think that's just a bit of an inflated number, probably worst case scenario sort of thing, just to forewarn customers. Now I know the Canadian government has actually recalculated average fuel economy numbers. There's a new calculation, it follows new principles. So maybe that's why the number is a little bit higher, and that's fine, because you know what? There are a lot of cars out there that will consume more than the sticker ever actually offered. And I can vouch for that because we bought a 2011 Hyundai Elantra with their new 1.8 engine. That's the model new. It's not actually NEW, NU is their model number. And that was supposed to be, you know, a fantastic car on fuel economy, which, to be honest with you, it always used 10 liters per 100 kilometers. It was like the most, honestly, if you own a 2011 Hyundai Elantra, I guarantee you're averaging 10 liters per 100 kilometers. This car has double the horsepower and an all-wheel drive system, and according to EVIC, it's already averaging 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. Okay, so I've driven 83.4 kilometers in total, 52 minutes and 44 seconds. My average fuel economy now is 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers for this trip. My live fuel economy reading on the EVIC screen is 8.3 liters per 100 kilometers. So to put things into perspective, the figures that you're getting, most four-cylinder turbo engines give the same fuel economy numbers. To give you an idea, again, I always put reference to vehicles that I've owned or have information on already. My 2012 BMW 320i, which is 180 horsepower, averaged 8 liters per 100 kilometers. It didn't have all-wheel drive. It had a rear-wheel drive system. It had a ZF 8-speed transmission. It was a 4-cylinder, single-turbo motor, and this car is only drinking 0.5 more liters per 100 kilometers, and you have 300 horsepower on tap with an all-wheel drive system. That's where your $40,000 come into play, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how else I can put it to you guys in terms of functionality of this car. This is a great car to purchase if you are in the market and your price range sits around the $40,000 mark. I would say now, at the beginning when I first started this little night drive here, 80%, now I could say 90% of my driving is at 110 kilometers an hour. The first little bit there, getting onto the highway, the snow really hit hard and cars were just really slowing down. I would say I was doing about 80 to 90 kilometers an hour at that point. What else can I mention? Again, road noise is great. I've learned that the Don Valley Parkway, or not the Don Valley, sorry, the Gardiner Expressway is where I'm going to do all of my reviews now in terms of suspension performance. It doesn't matter if you're going east or west. I learned that tonight, so I've gained some information along with the information you guys have gained from this test drive. And just an update: 90.6 kilometers, 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers on my total trip calculator, and my average is 8.3 liters. And I've slowed down, getting into a little bit of traffic. Okay, so I filled up the 200S. The same pump that I came at earlier tonight, about an hour ago. Let me just turn on the car. The exact numbers. It's going to be important for me to calculate this. Okay, so at 95.9 cents a liter for regular fuel, it's minus 7 degrees outside. I would say it's still minus 15 with the wind chill. It hasn't warmed up in the last hour. So the volumetric, the amount of volume that I added of gasoline an hour ago has not changed at all whatsoever. Went to the same pump. It's registering 8.7 liters. 8.7 liters. Okay, so based on that, I can say, you know, relatively speaking, the car is averaging easily a maximum of 8.7 liters per 100 kilometers, considering that the pump hasn't changed or the way I pumped it was different. Between 8.7 liters to 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, what this car is registering anyway. It registered 8.5 liters as my total trip. So now I'm going to go to that website I mentioned to you guys. I'll give you the website's name. Let me just find it here quickly. And I've always used this. This is the most accurate I can find on the internet. Fuel. And again, if you really want to search this yourself, just type in fuel economy calculator in Google and look for the link that says opentoronto.com. That's the link. So if you type in what I just said to you, fuel economy calculator, and it's a few links down. It's on the first page. Opentoronto.com calculators is the most accurate that I can find on the internet, and it's very easy to use. You can do miles per gallon or liters per 100 kilometers. So the fuel spent, I spent 8.7 liters. I said right? Yep. It's actually 8.717 according to the pump here. And the amount of kilometers I've driven was 106.7 kilometers. So let's submit this, and it's going to spit out the average for me. Wow, 8.17 liters per 100 kilometers. Let me just do that one more time to make sure. I guess the 6.7 kilometers makes a big difference. So it says fuel spent in liters, or maybe I put 8.717. Let me just know, because it remembers exactly what I typed. Kilometers, 106.71. Yeah, it's correct. It's absolutely correct. And like I said, the only reason why I know this is because I've used this calculator so many times on different vehicles for my personal use, and it's always been dead on accurate, like maybe off by a kilometer. With regards to how the accuracy is with the fuel. So yeah, this vehicle averages 8.17 liters per 100 kilometers, and I believe the sticker even mentioned it averaged 8.2. Do I have it in here? No, I took it inside my home. Yeah, I took it inside. So there you have it. I was in a snow blizzard. The road conditions was totally poor, as you can tell, and I simply averaged 8.1 liters. We could round it. Let's just say 8.2 to be generous. I averaged 8.2 liters per 100 kilometers, doing 110 kilometers an hour average.